he allowed a demonic spirit of fear to latch on to him. And so today we're going to dissect his son, Isaac, right? And so when it comes to Isaac, and you think about Isaac, you have to very much so examine that residue that was in Isaac, right? And when you have a residue means it's something left over. Residue is the proof that an experience has occurred, right? And even if that experience is eating something, if you look inside of a bowl, say for instance, if you ask your teenage children, can you go ahead and wash the dishes for me? And they wash the dishes, supposedly, right? They allegedly wash the dishes. And then later on, you start picking up bowls, you start picking up plates, and then you're like, now I done told them not to go in that kitchen and eat any of those cookies, not to eat any more of that candy, not to eat any of whatever it is you've told them not to eat, right? Any candy bars, any more chips. But the person on the outside would say, well, how would you know? Do you have cameras set up in your house that you knew that they had all that to eat? You didn't have to have cameras set up because there were residue left on the plates, residue left in the bowls, right? Residue left inside of the cups, crumbs, cookie crumbs, crumbs from the chips, smears from the candy bars and the chocolate, right? They had dark chocolate covered almonds. You see little pieces of the almonds and little pieces of the chocolate everywhere you go on the floor. There's some type of residue. There's evidence / proof that an experience has taken place. And that experience is often a physical experience. But then when you think about it as a whole, if you think about like even with the word integrity as an integral whole, when you talk about residue can involve you seeing proof / evidence that an experience has occurred. And that experience could be emotionally, it can be mentally / psychologically, it could be spiritually, it could be physically, culturally, socially, relationally, professionally, right? All different areas that residue can occur. And then there is proof / evidence that something has taken place, that the experience has taken place. It's just like even with your child, your little child, 5-year-old, you ask them, have you been in my makeup? No, no, I ain't been in it, mama. And what? They have lipstick still wrapped around the rim of their lips. They thought they had gotten it all off, right? But you see the lipstick, you see the residue, right? Or you see the smears on the mirror, or you see the smear, or you see the lipstick on the tissue and they put it in the garbage can. You see evidence that something has occurred. And the same thing happens with us when it comes to emotional and psychological residue. There is evidence that an experience has occurred, and that experience, that residue means that there is some unresolved trauma and unresolved grief that needs to be worked out. And so when you think about it, when you look, what we're going to do, and I'm going to go over probably just part 1 today, we're going to look at Genesis 26 and see how Isaac, Abraham's son, how his residue showed up. And so for Genesis 26, I'm going to read chapter 26, but then I'm going to read verses 1 through 8. There was another famine in the land in addition to the one that had occurred in Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, at Gerar. So that lets us know when it said there was another famine in the land in addition to the one that had occurred in Abraham's time. That's letting us know, it's giving us the background. It's kind of letting us know why the residue was there in the first place, right? It's setting us up to let us know there was lack involved. If there was a famine, that means there was lack involved. So you had a famine with Abraham. First they went to Egypt, then they went to Abimelech. And now you got a famine where Isaac is living, right? And it says this was another one. This is an additional one, right? And so what does Isaac do? Him and Rebekah, they go what? They go to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, at Gerar. They go to the second stop. that Abraham made, right? And so this background history, you might say, well, why are they telling us this? They're getting you prepared. They're getting you set up. It's kind of like going to the doctor's office, right? And you got to figure out what's going on at the foundation, whether it's a therapist or it's a regular physician. They want to know some type of family history as to why you're having whatever issues or the lack thereof going on with your mind, body, soul, and spirit, right? They want to know about those areas. They want to know what great grandmama had, what your grandmother had, what your mama had. And then, okay, maybe this is the reason why now you have this thing, right? And so when you look at the residue, which is the leftover proof that there's been an experience, emotionally, you could see where the disorders hit. If you got cluster A disorders, cluster B disorders, cluster C disorders, right? And with the B, those are where the narcissistic disorders, the borderline personality disorders, all of those are in the cluster B disorders. So when the therapist or a psychologist looks at things, they want to be able to see the pattern of behavior. And here they want to give us a background. There was another famine in the land in addition to the one that had occurred in Abraham's time. So it's like, I got to give you a little background story just to catch you up in case you forgot, right? And that's what happens when you go to the doctor. Then when we read in verse 2, it says, the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Now, when do not, that's a command. He's like, don't do it. And the reason why do you think the Lord is telling Isaac, don't go down to Egypt? The Lord knows what's about to happen. He's omniscient. So even though he's hoping that it's not going to happen, he sits back and hope we're not going to make that decision of drinking or using any other type of substance or drugs or anything else, right? Any other type of behavior. And he's hoping and praying and sitting back. He's omniscient. He knows what's going to happen. So it says, do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land. Another command, live. That I tell you about. Stay in this land as an alien. And I will be with you and bless you. So when somebody says that to you, they give you commands about what not to do, right? Like a parent to a child. And then they say to you, I'm going to be with you and I'm going to bless you. And then when he says as an alien, that means you living somewhere and, you know, it's foreign to you. You're not used to the customs. You're not used to anything that's going on to this place. But then you got the Lord saying, I will be with you and bless you. So when you've got the Lord saying all of that, then it's like, okay, even though I might be fearful, this is actually comforting me. This is actually giving me hope. This is actually giving me encouragement. This is actually helping me, is reaffirming and validating me, all of the above. So that's what you would think, right? That's what you would think after God said all of that. And he even said, for I will give all these lands to you and your offspring, and I will confirm the oath that I swore to your father, Abraham. So he's just letting him know all of this stuff I'm going to do for you. All of it. I'm with you. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. None of it. I'm with you. I got your back, so to speak, right? And then he said, I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky. I will give your offspring all these lands. All the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring because Abraham. So he's letting him know this is not anything you've done to deserve this because of your daddy, the promise, the covenant I made with him. Because Abraham listened to me and kept my mandate, my commands, my statutes, and my instructions. Then it says, so Isaac settled in Gerar. So Isaac didn't go any further when God told him, do not go down to Egypt and to live there as an alien. He followed that part. And God reassured him. He validated him. He reaffirmed him. I'm with you. I got your back. All of that. Now look at how quickly things take a turn. In verse 7, it says, when the men of the place asked about his wife, he said, she is my sister. For he was afraid to say my wife, thinking the men of the palace will kill me on account of Rebekah, for she is a beautiful woman. When Isaac had been there for some time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from the window and was surprised to see Isaac caressing his wife, Rebekah. So think about that. First of all, you're going to lie. You're going to lie about it. You're going to tell a flat out lie. And then secondly, okay, you lied this thing because you were afraid for your life. You threw your wife under the bus, right? Because you were afraid of what was going to happen. You were afraid of losing your life. But then you didn't think what the consequences would be. You didn't think about, okay, I've told this lie. Now I'm down there just playing around and hugging her and caressing her. You weren't going to think that they were going to think this is something weird that a brother and sister does, as if they're an item, so to speak, right? You didn't think they were going to wonder about the PDA or public displays of affection, right? And think about it. This fear, this demonic spirit of fear that latched on to Abraham, then latched on to Isaac, showed that they had a residue of a lot going on. Because what happens when you got desperate times, then we do what? Desperate measures, as that figure of speech says, right? And so what Isaac had been taught, he didn't see it from Abraham, right? Because he wasn't even there in Egypt. He wasn't born then. He was not there when they went to Abimelech. But what was in Isaac's DNA was twofold. First of all, it came and ran down from Abraham, because Abraham never resolved his unresolved trauma, right? When fear, what Abraham learned, and obviously his brother, who was Lot's father, right? When fear hits you, you fight back by throwing women under the bus. So whether Lot's father threw his wife under the bus or some other women under the bus, Lot got it from somewhere, because he didn't throw his wife under the bus, but he threw his daughters. And these were his daughters who were engaged, who had fiancés, and told these men who were outside that door, bamming it down for dear life, you can have them, do whatever you want to them, right? So that's what obviously had been going on. That's what they obviously picked up on. Isaac and his DNA from Abraham. Lot and his DNA from his father, who was Abraham's brother, right? And then you've got it where, so Isaac didn't even have a chance, because then you got his mother, who was Sarah, right? Isaac's mother, Sarah, had unresolved trauma because she was wounded. She had husband wounds. Her husband threw her under the bus, not once, but twice. And that was probably why God said, don't go down to Egypt. Don't go down to Egypt, because it's not going to be a 2-for-1 special like with your dad. He already knew. Even though he was hoping and praying, he already knew, because he's omniscient. He already knew what Isaac was going to do. Abraham did it twice. God's like, no, we're not gonna do this again, right? And so the thing about it is, Isaac paid attention to God saying, okay, stay in this land, don't go down. But his fear overrode it. Even though God told him that and he obeyed that part, what he did not obey, what he did not pay attention to, was the fact that God was saying, I'll be with you, right? His reaffirming, his validating him telling him basically not to be fearful, any of that. He let that go in one ear and out of the other, because it was unresolved trauma. There was a residue of a lot inside of Isaac, and Isaac never dealt with it. And so, but what does it say in scripture? It says that the fear of man is a snare unto the soul. And so if we're so caught up fearing what man is going to do, then we cannot be obedient to God at the same time, because man does not have more precedence over God, or is not more powerful than God, right? God can make things happen in a heartbeat, can just snap his fingers, so to speak, and things can change in any one of our situations, in whatever areas, professionally, relationally, financially, any of those areas. In a heartbeat, things can change, because he owns cattle on 1,000 hills, right? And so by God knowing what Isaac was going to do, he was basically affirming him, trying to get the fear out of him, letting him know, I'm with you, letting him know all these blessings that's going to be yours. Just do what your father did. But when push came to shove, Isaac went on and said, this is my sister. Abraham, prepare, Sarah. This is what you're going to say. This is how you're going to do. Isaac didn't do any of that. He just threw her under the bus, right? I don't know which one is worse, to prep somebody, to tell them you're going to lie for me, and basically let them know I'm going to throw you under the bus, or just to be thrown under there, just to feel like the rug had been pulled from underneath you. I don't know which one is worse, right? You decide, right? So unresolved trauma is what Isaac had in his DNA from his dad, from what his dad saw and his dad's brother saw, right? That was Lot's father. And then unresolved trauma from his mama being thrown under the bus. So he had mother wounds. Isaac had father wounds, right? Sarah had husband wounds. All of that. So Isaac couldn't do nothing but what? Get to that stronghold, that place, right? Where that fear latched on and built a fortress, so to speak, in his mind. And it told him, when you're in a situation where your life is under threat, throw the woman under the bus, right? And so what happens is that when you get to situations like this, where there's some lack, like it was lack going on, the lack was the famine, right? So you get to a situation like this where there's some lack, then what happens is lack makes you do crazy things, because at the root of lack is fear. There's not going to be enough, right? And so people that deal with, that have this scarcity mindset, the root of it is lack, and the root of lack is fear. So they go through these cycles of hoarding and hoarding and hoarding, just buying up everything. They might buy 100 bottles of shampoo, then restricting themselves from using it. One little dot every day. One pinch of cookie every day. Then they have other things where something or another gets hold of them, and they'll just start purging and just throwing out all other kind of stuff. But they don't want you to use the shampoo. They don't want you to eat any of the cookies. But they've decided, you know what? I'm sick of looking at something else in the house. And they'll just start throwing that out like crazy. And then you'll think to yourself, how does this even go with any type of rhyme or reason? You don't want to get up there and try to figure out the rhyme or reason to it, because there is none. This is all a part of the spirit of scarcity mindset. It's very deceptive in nature, right? So when people say the apple does not fall too far from the tree, the apple is the fruit. So when if somebody has said that in Isaac's case, yeah, the apple don't fall too far from the tree, when they saw him doing that to Rebecca, they would be saying the right thing, because what happened is that Abraham did the same thing. Abraham was Isaac's father. The fruit was throwing his wife under the bus, right? The fruit that Lot showed, throwing his daughters, his 2 virgin daughters, under the bus. The fruit that Abraham showed twice, throwing his wife under the bus. That's the fruit, right? And the seed was planted in their family's love story garden, right? And so what happens when you have this kind of residue in you of unresolved trauma, unresolved grief, you got daddy wounds, you got mama wounds because they didn't resolve anything, then guess what? You couldn't help nothing but to get all of the backlash from it, right? You couldn't help nothing but to get it in your DNA. But guess what? You have time to correct this. And even after Abraham messed up, God still later in that chapter, and I want to say it might have been the 23rd to the 25th verses, I'm going to find it, he went on and reaffirmed and validated Isaac again. He went on and did that. Even after all of that, he still went on and reaffirmed him. So verses 23 through 25. From there he went up to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him that night and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your offspring because of my servant Abraham. So he built an altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. Ivan's servants also dug a well there. Right? And so what happens is that right a little bit before that, it said he moved, verse 22, he moved from there and dug another, and they did not quarrel over it. He named it Rehoboth and said, for now the Lord has made space for us, and we will be fruitful in the land. But God already had told him, I'm with you. He already told him that he was going to give him all of this stuff. but he partially believed God. And when we have the residue of a lot residing inside of us because we got a lot going on, and because we have a person like Lot in our family who's had so much in their DNA and they got passed down, we can't help nothing but to have that residue, right? Showing evidence / proof that some experience emotionally, psychologically, physically, spiritually, relationally, professionally, culturally, socially, in every other area, something has taken place, and we have got to do our work, to do the trauma work, to do the shadow work, as some people call it. We've got to do our work and heal. I hope that something from today's lesson has blessed your heart. Have a blessed rest of your week and be blessed. And until next time, again, I'm Katina Horton, the Love and Freedom Toxic Relationship Recovery Coach. Be blessed.